You say thank you. And God bless America.
ACC football covered like no other here on the Armchair Quarterback.
Against the blitz. Touchdown, Florida State. Rock Preston scores the touchdown. And now it's Bowden's decision. And he sends Mowry onto the field right away. Danny Cannell is the holder. Mowry tags it. This game is over. A 31-31 tie. A 31-31 tie.
A deep throw by Lawrence. A lot of contact. Justin Ross broke free from it. He's down in the end zone. Touchdown, Clemson. Justin Ross, a freshman wide receiver, big, rangy. And Trevor Lawrence knows, throw it up against that single coverage, give him a chance to make a play on a 50-50 ball.
If you're a fan of the ACC, pull up an armchair. You're home.
Do you want to lose 18 pounds fast and improve your health? Now you can lose up to 18 pounds in your first 2 months with Nutrisystem. Get delicious breakfasts, lunches, dinners, even snacks and shakes delivered safely to your door. All delivered for free. It's easy to follow, and you'll see results in your first week. Just text BURN to 323232. You'll get your favorite foods made healthier and perfectly balanced to put your body in fat burning mode. Text BURN to 323232 right now and get 50% off a month of meals and shakes. That's right, 50% off a month of meals and 50% off a month of shakes with probiotics to help support your immune system. Just text BURN to 323232 right now. There's even a money-back guarantee. Millions of people have lost weight with Nutrisystem, and you can too. Lose up to 18 pounds in your first 2 months. Just text BURN to 323232. That's BURN to 323232.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out.
Hi, this is Britney Spears.
What up, this Jay-Z.
This is Jennifer Lopez. Armchair.
This portion of the show is being brought to you by Ed's Almost Good Beer. Remember, Ed's Almost Good Beer was brewed in God's country when God wasn't looking.
Kick off fall and kick off happiness with Schafferhofer Grapefruit and Pomegranate Beer. Log on to kickoffhappiness.com for your chance to win a cool custom cooler with Schafferhofer swag, including your favorite team's jersey. Look for the Schafferhofer displays at your local retailers for great savings on Schafferhofer Grapefruit and Pomegranate. And learn more about the sweepstakes at kickoffhappiness.com. See site for official rules. Must be 21 or older. Brewed and bottled in Germany. Imported by Radeberger Group USA, Norwalk, Connecticut. Always enjoy responsibly.
Although edited, tonight's thriller contains suspense and violence which may be unsuitable. Parental discretion is advised.
If you can make a hit in a ball game, you can make a hit with me.
Good morning. Welcome to the payoff pitch with, I always want to call you Texas Troche, Stephen Troche and Sean O'Toole. Gentlemen, how are you? Stephen, yeah, I see you got the Marlins flying. They had a tough loss last night. I was pulling for you last night to beat the damn Mets, but man, that was a wild game. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. It's another Saturday. I'm ready to get another good show going on. We've got a full day of baseball today. I think, 14 games, 15 games. Can't ever complain about that.
And Sean O'Toole, how the hell are you? Looks like you're sitting high above. Are you in Detroit or where are you?
That is Comerica Park, sir. Although they won 5 in a row and they've all been on the road. So I mean, it's a bad omen. Maybe this might not be good. We'll see.
And if any of them were against Seattle or Texas, they don't count.
That's not true. But
the Tigers,
last night against Kansas City, that one definitely counts.
That one counts.
They all count. But true story.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and let y'all dive into it. Looks like you're starting off with Between the Numbers. So take it away, gentlemen.
All right. So I wanted to start off today's show a little bit by just going through just a small bit of what goes in our process, the main numbers we look at, just a little bit about those numbers, what they mean, like how they can be used. So I mean, Sean, I'll let you take it away. Go first.
Yeah, so talking about hitters specifically, there are 3 primary numbers that I look at. I don't look at batting average really at all. WRC plus, which is win runs created winning runs created plus, which is basically, kind of a jambalaya of how many runs you contribute to winning, right? It's not really RBIs, it's not really runs. It's kind of indicative of how you contribute to runs having scored. It takes into account things like sacrifice flies where runners advance, bunts and things like that. But it also takes into consideration just how many times you advance runners into the field, which maybe traditional methods wouldn't count as much. So WRC plus is one of my favorites. OPS is obviously one that I pay attention to the most, which is on base plus slugging for anybody who's uninitiated. I don't think you'd be watching this if you didn't know what OPS was. The other one that I don't think gets the love that it should deserve, that I pay a lot of attention to, is isolated power. So what that is basically hard hit rate and high exit velocity, doubles, triples, home runs for the most part, although it does factor in singles if the exit velocity, I believe, is above 95. So as an example, he's someone I was going to talk about today. I'll just give a little preview. Chris Bryant's isolated power is 308, which is pretty high and would finish in, probably the top 15 in the league, I would say, of isolated power. You're going to have people that have a much higher isolated power than that just because they walk a lot. But those are the three that I look at the most from a hitter's standpoint. That tells me, are you hitting the ball hard? Are you impacting the game in a positive way? It tends to filter out some of the empty calories numbers, like, love my Braves, but a lot of those runs last night are not going to be, particularly indicative of WRC plus, because the outcome of the game was in hand, in the middle of the fifth inning. So some of that stuff won't account for that as much as it would in a game that's, say, 5-3, because it takes win probability into account as well. So WRC plus, one of my favorites. That's the one I kind of want to leave everybody with, and I'll pass it over to you.
No, that was a great breakdown. I mean, like you kind of took some of my thunder there. ISO is definitely one of the big ones I look at. So I mean, like one of the easiest ways to get a general idea of someone's ISO is to take their slugging percentage and then subtract their average. So I mean, that basically gives you a rate of their average numbers of extra base, basically number of extra base hits per at bat. And so I mean, I think that's a great metric that takes out a little bit of the confusion with slugging percentage. But I mean, when I'm looking at hitters in general, I'm looking for, I'm not really looking at the surface stats, like what happened. I'm kind of looking at what he's actually been doing. So I'm looking at, I like to look at a lot of the StatCast data. So I like to see the exit velocity. I like to see the launch angle. I like to see how often they're getting, like they're barreling. So like a barrel is just when you hit the sweet spot of the bat, and it's basically like the ideal hit. So, I mean, I'm basically looking at that because, I mean, a lot of times you'll have guys that have like the exit velocity you're looking for. They have the a good launch angle. All their deeper numbers look great, but I mean, they'll have like a 150 average or only like 3 home runs when they should have, 9 or 10. So I like those are some of the bigger numbers I like looking at because it paints more of a picture of who the hitter is, not what they have done. And then at pitchers, the main thing I'm looking for in a pitcher for fantasy purposes is strikeouts. Can they get strikeouts? Especially in DFS, that's where most of your point values are going to come from. And that's really the main thing I'm looking for. Is it's the pitcher matchup. It's who they're facing throughout the week. WHIP is also a great indicator. I mean, that's actually one of the most primal stats that baseball has, but it's also one of the best indicators of how you're going to do in the future. I mean, I'm pretty sure, like you said before, with OPS, like everyone knows WHIP is at this point, walks plus hits per inning. But I mean, that's just a great way of showing like who can limit contact, who can limit the walks. But no, I mean, like when I'm looking at pitchers, I'm looking at hitters. I'm looking for they're just who they are as a player, not not their results. So I'm looking to profile them. I'm trying, and I'm matchups based on that.
Yeah, matchups are an underappreciated thing. That just throwing that out there when you're making decisions in your daily fantasy lineups, or when you're making decisions in your rotisserie lineup, whatever it might be. Always take into account who they're facing and what kind of profile that pitcher has. If you can, look up his pitches, see how the hitter performs against those pitches, because there are some very, very good hitters who aren't as good against, say, breaking stuff and fastballs. He wasn't on the docket today, but I'll mention Yordan Alvarez. I was under the impression this dude hit everything. You actually go to Baseball Savant and look at his numbers. He actually crushes breaking stuff, and his fastball batting average is considerably worse, and his fastball exit velocity is considerably worse, which is a total outlier for what we're seeing in the league right now. Dudes are, for the most part, mashing anything that's in the zone and mostly hitting a lot of fastballs. But Alvarez is an invert in the sense that if you throw him breaking stuff in the zone, he's just going to put launch angle on it and stick it in the Crawford boxes because they're like 220 feet away. So, there's some, you have to, and as McGee says a lot, and I'm a big proponent of this, it's why I pay for MLB TV, you have to watch the games, right? There are things you pick up on with your own eyes that, no amount of looking at a slide chart on Baseball Savant, love it though I do, will give you. So, yeah, absolutely.
Moving on from that, we can review for the hitters and pitchers. Steven, where do you want to start off with this?
And one guy I'm starting off with, I was super high on him coming into the season. He got hurt. Was started off slow, got hurt, but he is back and better than ever. Ian Happ. I mean, he is just.
Guess who's back?
He had a really rough start. He had a rough start to the year. It looked like he was kind of just getting on top of the ball. It wasn't really getting through the baseball. He had a lot of bad luck with that batting average on balls in play. But he came back off the IL, and in the month of May, he's batting .417, 5 home runs, 10 runs, 10 RBIs, hitting in the heart of that Chicago Cubs lineup. And he's this is the Ian Happ we've all been waiting to see for years, and I think it's here to stay. Even before, while he was slumping, his exit velocity was still he wasn't losing anything on that. He was still swinging about the same amount of pitches in the zone. And best part about everything, he's still available in 35% of Yahoo leagues. This is a guy.
I'm actually surprised that it's that that he's taken in that many leagues, just because you get into your drafts, you pick your guys, and away you go. And a lot of people don't make a lot of moves, especially before Memorial Day, because you're still waiting for the Charlie Blackmons to turn the corner kind of thing, right? And I'm actually surprised by it. It's ironic that y'all are talking about him, because the show that follows this on us on Saturday mornings, the Neighborhood Play, which is a Chicago baseball show, Joey and Christian, that was one of the first topics that they're hitting this morning, is Ian Happ. And when they sent it to me, I had to look at it and go, man, that dude is on fire. I don't know if I'm dropping, Acuna to pick him up, but if I've got some garbage laying in my lineup, I might be like, all right, I'll give him a shot, especially because it's going to warm up in Wrigley, right? So he's going to start tearing the cover off the ball, you would think, assuming he doesn't go into a big slump.
Yep.
Well, that, and I may be mistaken on this, but I'm pretty sure Happ has 3 position eligibility in Yahoo. So that's something I'm getting as many players that have multi-position eligibility as I can on my team.
Yeah, he has been for years. I'll look it up for you real quick if you want to move on.
Yeah, Sean, sticking with the Cubs.
Yeah, sticking with the Cubs really quick. Chris Bryant is kind of a polarizing player for a lot of baseball fans. By the way,
I don't mean to cut you off, Sean. Second, third, and outfield. Okay,
there you go. Chris Bryant is very quietly, and I think very under the radar, maybe having his best professional season of his career in a walk year. Just a couple of numbers that stood out: 308, 407, 616 is his 3-trend split. A 1027 OPS. His isolated power is 308 and his WRC plus is 37. If he just holds the WRC plus at 37 through the rest of the year, that would be his highest WRC plus of his career. 2017 is kind of his best overall season. I know the Cubs won it all in 2016, but 2017 was his best statistical performance as a season, and he's on pace to break it. The big question with him, if you're looking to acquire him, or if you're considering selling him because you think this is unlikely to continue in fantasy, is he going to finish the season as a Cub? I don't think he's going to. I think it's a fait accompli that he's going to go somewhere, because there's no chance. We don't need to get into all the service time manipulation stuff, but him and his representation are not going to sit at a table across from the Ricketts and give them any kind of a discount unless the Ricketts throw him $300 million. He's not coming back to Chicago. And that's a smart front office. So they're going to move on from him. The question is to where. I can see some fits that are terrifying and intriguing. But we'll see where that is. If I were a Chris Bryant owner, I wouldn't sell him, because there's always a chance he's going to end up in a hitter's ballpark like Houston, like Yankee Stadium. There's a couple different places I can think of where you'd want to hold on to him. So I don't know that the time to sell is now. But his career profile, his numbers are better this year than they've ever been. And I think he's kind of going under the radar.
No, I mean, I love Chris Bryant. I've been a proponent of his for years. I mean, he had a rough 2020, even a little bit of a rough 2019. But yeah, I mean, I'm loving what he's doing this year. I'm happy for him. I mean, yeah, he's going to command a massive salary next season.
So massive.
All right, moving on from that, what else you got today?
Now, one guy I hadn't planned on talking about until about 1:30 last night. This dude has just been tearing the cover off the ball. Jake Cronenworth. He is a second baseman for San Diego. He's second-year player now, batting .314, .384 on base percentage, .479 slugging. He's never going to be that kind of big power guy, but he gets on base. He only strikes out 12% of the time. He walks 9% of the time. He's got about a league average 166 ISO. So I mean, that is plenty enough to get the job done, especially in that Padres lineup. But I mean, this dude is absolutely unstoppable. Last night, 3 hits, like three for 5 with a home run, 5 RBIs. I think he's got, 2 games in the month of May where he doesn't have a hit. He is just unstoppable. And I mean, like, especially for DFS, I mean, he's almost like he's under $4,000 every single day. I mean, he is a key to your lineup. But a couple things I've been noticing about him: his exit velocity is down a little bit from last year, about 2 miles an hour. His barrel rate's cut in half. His hard hit rate's cut in half. His batting average, like he's been a guy that's really relied on his batting average and balls in play to get him where he needs to be. Like, he's averaging around like a 330, 340 over his career. And then one thing I've also noticed is a lot of his expected stats are much suggesting that he's overperforming right now. So I mean, his batting average 314, expected batting average 273, his WOBA 373, expected WOBA 339. He's a guy I'm really looking at right now. He's not, even if you keep him, I don't think he's going to hurt you in the long run, but this may be a
trade high if I could, and I'll tell you why. I've watched them a lot. He's not the batter that jumps off the page with me.
Yeah, I mean, like I was just about to say that he's a perfect sell high candidate.
But is he not just sexy as hell because he's got 3 eligibilities in the infield? So you like, dude, look at this guy, and you want to pick him up. And I fell for that trap last year, and I picked him up, and he's just kind of a dud. So I think he's a perfect. If you're in a year-long fantasy league and you only, like the way we do our points leagues, if you only have one guy on your bench, that's a perfect guy to have, a guy who can play different positions. But yeah, I'm with you as far as I can understand why his projection is much lower than what he's doing right now, because I feel like he does not the ball doesn't come flying off his bat like the Trent Grishams in that lineup. And so anyways, go ahead. I just had to put that 2 cents in because I've as Sean likes to say, I've had a cup of coffee with that guy a time or two, and I'm like, I still want to pick him up, and I'm just like, oh, don't do it.
No, so I mean, last bit on him, he's gonna have a safe floor. He's not gonna ever kill you, but I don't think he's gonna have those really true breakout weeks and consistently be putting up the big numbers that you would want. All right, Sean.
Yeah, I'm only gonna
go ahead.
I'm only gonna throw in really quick. He's a Wolverine. Go blue. And he's part of a fascinating trade, because Tampa Bay doesn't make many bad trades where it looks like they lost the trade. Tommy Pham and Jake Cronenworth to the Padres for Hunter Renfroe, Xavier Edwards, who's buried in their developmental system, and a player to be named later who I couldn't even find. So that's pretty interesting. That's one the Padres won from the Rays. So I'll move off of Cronenworth really quick. And yes, he is a Wolverine, 7th round pick in 2015.
Interesting note on that, Sean. Did you know 6 times in the history of Major League Baseball, the player to be named later was the player that was traded originally?
Interesting. Didn't know that.
Came across that weird stat the other day, but anyways, go ahead.
The guy I'm going to mention really quick, as a resident Braves fan and someone who loves watching this guy hit, been a big fan of his ever since I caught wind of him in Double-A, is Mr. Austin Riley. And a couple of these numbers really jumped out to me. In the last 31 games, he's 359, 464, a 1091 OPS, which is second in all of baseball. And he's only rostered in 66% of Yahoo leagues and 62% of ESPN leagues. People need to have their heads checked. Now, this is another one of those, you have to watch the games to really see it. But this guy's power, especially in the zone, is really something to behold. And the only real advanced metric that tells me that he's really picked up on something is his first pitch swing percentage is way down. Last year, his first pitch swing percentage was 43%, according to Baseball Savant, which meant no matter what you were throwing him on the first pitch, he was probably swinging. This year, he's only at 31%. And he's walking more. His walk rate's up almost 6 or 7%. So he's being patient. He's in a lineup with a lot of other good hitters, so he doesn't have to force things as much. And the fact that Contreras has filled in for d'Arnaud and is actually a hitting threat has boded well for him, because he's mostly been, 5th, 6th, 7th in the lineup. He's been outside the top 5 for the most part. But people are going to continue to be on base in that Braves lineup. We saw it last night, and it's not just going to be against the Pirates. He is going to blow away fastballs, especially in the zone. He's going to go the other way. He's got some huge home runs into right center and right field. He's a guy that if he's available in your league, stop what you're doing. I just got a notification that McGee did, and go pick him up right now.
Well, because in that one league, I've been wanting to pick him up, and I'm like, well, now Sean's shooting his mouth off about it. I can't wait. I was going to wait a couple of weeks to see how it played out.
His advanced numbers are just, his weighted on base is 394.
The only thing I'll say about it,
crazy.
The only thing I'll say about this from someone who watches the Braves, I've watched every single game to my knowledge since like the late 80s. He does go in slumps, and he does get hot. And so when he's hot, he's scorching. When he goes into slumps, he gets in his own head. I still think he might be a guy that you want to be as a bench option that you put in while he's hot, but don't drop someone who is really good that you're like, this guy's going to come out of it, because Riley goes into slumps. With that being said, the guy needs to be up higher in the order. Ozzie Albies sucks. I don't care what anybody tells me. Ozzie Albies from the left-hand side of the plate is trash. From the right side of the plate, he's a very good hitter. I believe it's coming where Riley, he's already been moved up. I believe it's coming where he's going to either be hitting right behind Freddie or right behind Ozuna. They like doing the lefty righty thing, but when your lefty version of Ozzie is just a flailing hitter that just swings at anything that's near the plate, it's like one of us out there trying to hit left-handed because we're just trying to make contact. Ooh, look there, I can hit that one, and so I would keep that in mind with Riley. Don't go nuts, but Sean, you're right on. I think there's a coming of age with them. The fan base was going crazy the first couple of weeks because he was so cold, and I was like, man, this dude with his gloves is going to keep him in the lineup. But yeah,
24-year-old corner infielders who are 6'3", 240 and hit like him do not grow on trees.
They do it every year. They do it every year. They overreact. Not just Braves fans, but baseball fans overreact to some player who's young. And I guarantee you, Steven can give you a million of these versions. Being a Marlins fan, they always have one of the youngest teams in baseball. You got to let them figure themselves out.
Yeah, ask the Mariners fans how they're feeling about the outfield right now. Haniger, Lewis, and Kelenic. They're really tearing it up.
Turning out for you.
Right. They're really tearing it up. So, yeah, but moving on. What do you got, Steve?
Moving on, sticking with my Marlins, Trevor Rogers has just been an anomaly to me this season. Don't get me wrong. He has been absolutely tearing the league up. 65 strikeouts in 51 innings. He's only allowing he's got a 1.73 ERA. He's He's got a 2.61 FIP. I mean, he is just unhittable right now. But there are some signs that we may see a little bit of regression here. So first, expected ERA, expected FIP. While both his normal numbers are good. Expected ERA 2.90. That's still good, but not the 1.74 we're seeing. And then the expected FIP 3.34. Like I said, still not terrible, but I mean the pace he's setting right now is on fire. But a few other things that are really concerning me. He's given up fly balls at almost a 10% rate higher than last year. And those are coming away from his ground balls. He has the lowest ground ball rate of his career, even going back to the minors. He did pick up a little bit of velocity on his fastball. Looks like a lot of that success could be due to him using more of the changeup, but he is also giving up a little hard hits more than he ever has before. His exit velocity allowed is up, and he really hasn't been giving up the home run. And I mean, you're giving up higher exit velocity than normal, keeping the ball up in the zone. That's just a recipe for future disaster. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to, bottom out Kyle Freeland style from a few years ago, but what we're seeing right now, I think, is the ceiling of Trevor Rogers. And I don't think we're going to be seeing this whole thing rest of the season. It's tough. Is it for me to say?
He's going back to look at his draft. He's by far, to this point, the most successful player to come out of that draft. That was the 2017 draft. He was 13th overall by the Marlins. That draft at the top was Royce Lewis, who's done nothing. Hunter Green, Mackenzie Gore, Brendan McKay, Kyle Wright, Haven Smith, Castanera, Joe Adell. He's by far the best pick of that draft so far.
What is baseball players that most fans don't know? Okay, for 400, Alex, I'll take.
Hey, you and I know Kyle Wright. We have a very specific memory of Kyle Wright for sure.
I hope it stays a memory.
Yes. Same.
I was a little nervous. He was the one they were going to call up today, but it looks like they're bringing Bryce Wilson back because it's been over 10 days. If you ask me, they should have kept Tucker Davidson up in the big leagues, but they like to play that game, so they're keeping these kids' arms fresh. And it's not that Wilson's been terrible, but by the way, if you're playing fantasy, he's not worth it. He doesn't get strikeouts. He's a ground ball guy. He can be functional, but I noticed him on DraftKings, and I was like, that dude might get you 2 or 3 strikeouts through like 5 or 6 innings.
He had a decent number of strikeouts at that last start against the Mets, but it's notable that the Mets are fairly strikeout prone lineup. So that's a good breakdown on Rogers. I mean, he's definitely on my radar. I've been keeping an eye on the Marlins a little bit because they're frisky, and I really, really, really like Sandy Alcantara. I mean, I tend to watch a lot of Sandy Alcantara starts because he's got some filthy stuff. But that's an interesting breakdown on Rogers. Do you want me to go into my closers bit, or do we want to do prospects next?
We got about 60 seconds before we have to start transitioning towards DFS, by the way.
Okay, so I'll do the closers bit really quick.
I'll buy us a little time, but try to keep whatever you got left for like 3 minutes, and then we're going to go into DFS.
Okay, so really quick about closers, and this is more for standard leagues than DFS, although you can get some value on them as well. One of my favorite value plays is closers on bad teams. And by bad teams, I just mean teams that are either 4th or 5th in their particular division, or in the case of the NL Central, 6th. There are 2 closers that I think are being really slept on. One's relatively brand new, hence all the Tiger stuff. But the other one's not. Ian Kennedy is 77% owned on Yahoo. He's only 72 on ESPN. He's 11 of 12 in save chances. He's a converted starter. We've seen this a lot in the last, I think, 5 to 7 years. Converted starters becoming closers. 8 walkouts, 8 walks to 10 hits, 22 strikeouts in 27 innings. Very, very reliable. And when Texas does win, they usually don't win 10-0. They usually win 7-5. In the same vein, the Tigers have recently moved towards Michael Fulmer as their closer. He's 4 for 4 in chances. His fastball velocity, I can't even believe it, is living at 99. And he's always been a short burst guy, but he's only 32% owned in fantasy leagues. He's someone that if you can get him and you need the saves and holds category, or you need a closer because you've had some injuries or some inconsistency, or you drafted Trevor Rosenthal like me, go get Michael Fulmer, because he is always been a guy who could no-hit you one time through the order, and that's a perfect makeup for a closer. So Kennedy Fulmer, go get him if you can.
I love it.
All right, you got about a minute to wrap this up, unless you're ready to dive into DFS.
I say let's go into DFS.
All right. So let's go. So there's so many different slates today. I like it better when there's like one long slate. Maybe that's just me. I'm sure a lot of the people like it broken down so they can play twice. So I created our contest again. By the way, Steven won the first week. I came in second, and Sean third. We won't say how many teams were in there, but
I think you just did.
So we'll be keeping up with this all summer. So how we'll do the point system is Steven is leading 3-2 to 1 to us, right? And then as it goes each week, whoever wins gets 3 points, 2 and 1, so forth. The slate that I picked for us to do was the 4 o'clock slate, because I figured that would be the most common one. But y'all take it away as far as what y'all want to do as far as today. If y'all want to do the 7 or the 4, obviously those are the only two realistic options.
No, like the 4 o'clock was one I looked up. I mean, that's so. I mean, today we got the 4 o'clock slate has 7 games, and then the 7 o'clock slate has 7 games. So I mean, it's going to be pretty even in terms of just game theory, but like however you're looking at it. But I kind of like the 4 o'clock slate of games better. First thing that stuck out to me, we get a Jordan Yamamoto revenge game against the Marlins. Going into Miami, he's pitching for the Mets. I mean, he's like a bottom of the barrel major league starter. I mean, he's not going to really do too much, but anytime you get a starting pitcher priced at $4,000 in a very, very pitcher friendly park against a lineup that does not hit right-hand pitching very well, that just screams, I need to have him in my lineup. I mean, $4,000, that lets you do anything. And I mean, with that, I'm going to go straight up and get Shane Bieber. I mean, he's $11,200, but he gets to face Minnesota. Like
hell of a singer, I know that much. What?
I mean, Bieber he had a little bit of trouble last time out, but he's facing Minnesota, like the Twins at home. Twins really are falling off a cliff. I wish someone would have said that preseason. I think we called that one, Dave, right?
Yeah,
Dave called it.
Yeah,
I'll give McGee credit. I'll give McGee his flowers. He said they're in trouble.
Yeah, they're in trouble, man. They're flailing at this point. I think of that GIF where you're like drowning. You're trying to every time they take one step forward, they take like 7 steps back. You think, oh well, maybe they're going to start to get hot. Like, nah, not this year.
Yeah, but I mean, Shane Bieber, you can't ignore that strikeout upside. I mean, getting Yamamoto for $4,000 lets you do anything you want with your lineup. Just lock in Shane Bieber, forget about it. There's a couple, of the mid-range options I like. Brady Singer at 6,600, solely because he's facing Detroit and the strikeout upside is there. Pablo Lopez not 9,000 against the Mets. Lance McCullers against Texas. But I mean, if he's 9,500, but I like most expensive, least expensive, move on. Sean, any pitchers stuck out to you at all, or?
Yeah, the only two I was going to mention really quick. We kind of touched on Brady Singer. His career starts against Detroit are obscene. He strikes out like 3 to 1, and they have had no luck hitting him because he lives in the zone, especially on the corners a lot with a hard fastball. You kind of saw last night where Kansas City gets into trouble is throwing breaking pitches in the zone. Holland threw, Miggy a 3-2, kind of get it over curveball, and Miggy can still do something with those and won the game with it. But fastball, especially at high velocity, has given them a lot of trouble this year. And not a lot of people throw as hard as Singer. The only other one I'd mention, he's a guy everyone's had a cup of coffee with, but if you're going to go at the bottom of the pitching spectrum because you want to get some pricier hitters, Jordan Lyles was very, very good his last start for the Rangers, and he's been very good for the most part this year. He's been a little bit unlucky. He was on the opposite side of the mound the day they faced Joe Musgrove. He actually pitched pretty well in that game. His last start against the Yankees, he had them completely befuddled. Went 7 innings, struck out 8. So if you're wanting to spend more on hitters, I would go Lyles over Yamamoto. You can make an argument for, Bryce Wilson, but I just don't think you're going to get strikeouts there. That the only person I wanted to mention from a position standpoint, and I think if I mention this guy one more time, McGee's going to think he's a college roommate or something, is Isaiah Felipe at 3,400, has a lot of positional flexibility. You can get him as a shortstop. He's an on-base machine. He's a very, very capable hitter, and he hits spin rate very, very well. And McCullers is a big spin rate guy. He's got a huge, nasty hook and a good slider. So Felipe at 3,400 for me is a huge value and a no-brainer. I've got him in my lineup.
I think he's going to be more of an opener. The interesting one to me, Steven, is Yamamoto is now with the Mets. He's starting today against the Marlins, which I'm sure you're very familiar with him. So I've seen this guy pitch well, but I think he's being expected to only go 2 or 3 innings. That's why he's down all the way down at 4,000. That's why you don't want to grab him. I just want to put that out there. That's what I read in a clip in the New York paper this morning, is that they're expecting him to only go a couple of innings at, they hope he can go 4 or 5, but they're expecting around 2 or 3.
Yeah, but I mean, at that $4,000 price point, like, you only need 5 points to hit value. Say he goes 2 innings, gets 3.
But okay. So let me play devil's advocate. Let's say you do him, and you save money elsewhere, wherever the heck you go. Let's say if you go I think Singer against Detroit is a pretty solid one at 6,600. Is it worth that value to punt the pitcher when the guys you're going up against are most likely to grab Shane Bieber? I actually think Maeda's a decent start at 8,300. I know the Twins have not been that great, but the Cleveland offense is pretty bad too. It's been no hit twice, right? So is it worth it in saying, screw it, I'm going to go for hits? Or do you feel like you have to get points out of your pitching? Because I could see the value in both. I'm just curious if there's ever a situation where you're like, what the hell with pitching today? I'm just going to go for, I really like all these hitting matchups, and I'll just grab whatever garbage is left over after I start my,
I forget what day it was this week, but I mean, there was a day where, like, the 3 best pitchers were like it was like Zach Davies and Sonny Gray at the top. I mean, people that weren't ever going to blow you away, but Sonny Gray's out, like, he's out there today for $10,400, but
I'm not doing that in the Great American Small Park. I can tell you that right now. I'm not paying 10-4 for, not that Sonny Gray's a bad hitter. I mean, a bad pitcher. He's going up against an offense that struggled, but that's a lot of money to put.
Like, if I'm going for my aces, I'm going for the ones that are in the great matchups that are like, if I'm spending that much money, I'm making damn sure I'm spending that money well. Like, going for Sonny Gray in that ballpark against that. I mean, Milwaukee's not like a super killer lineup, but they have some pop. Yeah, I mean, I'm not rushing to the stand to throw that in there. But I mean, actually, that's a great segue, because I am heavily targeting the Reds today. Eugenio Suarez and Nick Castellanos in particular, a little bit expensive, but they have really great splits versus left-handed pitching. They are power machines in that power ballpark. I mean, what do we see? 20 runs out of the Braves last night. I wouldn't put it past him against Brett Anderson. I think he's
been around. We've all seen Brett Anderson. Anderson. He's been around.
He's Brett Anderson. I mean, he's not going to strike anybody out. He's going to throw 85 miles an hour and throw some layups.
All right, let's go to try to end to wrap up the show. We're going to start playing Pepper, and all that is at the end of the show. I'm going to throw things out at these two gentlemen that they have not been studying for. It's just going to be like gut reactions type of stuff. So the first one I'm going to throw at you, Stephen, we'll start with you. You do a redraft today, and you got the number 4 pick, and I'm just going to go ahead, because it was the way it was going at the beginning of the season. People would have faith that Soto will turn it around. So I'm going to say, for argument's sake, it's Acuna, Tatis, and Soto are off the board. You've got the number 4 pick. Who would you go with?
DeGrom. I don't care.
Sean, what about you?
Garrett Cole.
Interesting. DeGrom, by the way, should be back Tuesday, is what they're expecting. Did y'all see the tweet from the
tweet from the single
Panama City or from
Palm Beach? Palm Beach Cardinals.
Yeah, Palm Beach Cardinals. Jacob DeGrom's throwing 102 miles an hour. Send help.
Yeah, they won the internet that day. That was good stuff.
Oh my god!
But he had like 8 strikeouts and only threw 40 pitches.
Yeah, he had like
8 strikeouts in 3 innings. Struck out 8 of 9 batters. Like
8 strikeouts against like 4 guys. Like they just spun a cartoon. I can only imagine they're like, yeah, everyone go back to the dude. I really don't think I'm ready for the majors yet. That's guys not normal. Don't. I would have benched anyone that was worth a crap on my team that day because I wouldn't want to kill their confidence. The next one out there is with all the low hitting, all the low batting averages, and all the no-nos that have gone on this year. How would you have attacked your draft differently if it were to if we were starting over from day one today? Sean, I'll start with you.
So that's so contextual on the rules of your league. If you're penalized for strikeouts, you gotta give a lot of weight to guys who strike out a lot and are true, the 3 true outcomes guys. Yordan Alvarez, Miguel Sano, Joey Gallo. If I knew then what I know now, I would have targeted more guys like the much maligned previously in this conversation, Jake Cronenworth, guys with a lot of positional flexibility who don't strike out.
Steven, what say you?
Yeah, no, I definitely would have gone the same way. I mean, I was actually going to use Jake Cronenworth as my example, but I definitely would have targeted pitching a little bit more. We're going to see a little bit of uptick in the offense come the summer, but pitching is going to
get warm. It's going to get warm. It's going to turn a little bit, I think.
And fill in this sentence, Steven. I fill my DFS's my DFS lineups with blank first. What is your priority? Typical.
I was about to say if it's today, I'm going to say fill it with some Orioles. I'm loving that matchup, but
no, I mean typically. I don't mean like a particular player, or I'm saying like what do you? Because I know that some people will worry about their lineup, then they go to their pitching. Some people go to their pitching, then they go to their lineup. Some people want to they go after a couple of stars that they always go to. They'll go to a Tatis or whatever, and then they worry about the rest. What say you?
I'd find the pitchers, like for your hitters, find the pitchers that don't strike out a lot of guys. They give up hard contact, and look for guys that get hard contact and put the ball in play.
Sean, what about you? Fill in that sentence. I fill my DFS lineups with blank first.
Since there's such a premium on strikeouts, I fill it with pitchers who have a strikeout-friendly matchup, facing lineups with a high rate of strikeouts, which is why I'm on Singer today and why Bieber's always a good idea. DeGrom, Cole, those guys, always first.
All right, and that's Plain Pepper. We'll do more of this each show, and I'll get a different soundbite. There's a certain soundbite that I'm trying to find I can't find that's legal for me to put it on YouTube. We'll put it that way. Sean, what is your walk-off for the day, sir?
My walk-off is happy promotion to Taylor Walls, 5'10", 185, 2017 third-round pick out of Florida State University. Was called up by the Rays late last night when they made room for him with the Willy Adames trade. I thought it might be Wander Franco or Vidal Bergeron. I did not realize he was already on their 40-man, Taylor Walls was, from 2019. So that explains kind of why they went in this order first, because they didn't have to eat a 40-man spotter.
The Super 2 cutoff in the middle of June as well? Isn't that what they're waiting for on Franco and a couple of these other guys? Isn't there?
I thought it was the second week of May. I thought I was wrong about that. I could be wrong.
No, that's the first one. That's the first. So the first one was always like 21 days in, or it's whatever. I call it the Chris Bryant rule. Remember the big
right, the 21 days. Yeah,
right. And then after that, the Super 2. I want to say it's sometime in June, but I don't have it in front of me. I'll look it up for next show.
Probably has a lot to do with it. If you're looking at Walls, he's a contact hitter, not a lot of power. Has hit for power this year in AAA, but has only played 9 games. Worth a look if you need it in the middle of the infield.
Steven, what is your walk-off, sir?
My walk-off, if you want to make your lineup different, stack the Orioles. Cedric Mullins, Austin Hayes, Pedro Severino, Trey Mancini. They all hit lefties very well. John Lester is not a good pitcher. Load up on your Orioles today.
Gotcha. I was trying to I think Super 2 is still a thing as far as I know, but I'm looking it up.
It is.
Everything I'm getting is from 2019 when I Googled it. So we'll get it figured out by next show. It is still a thing though. They just don't. Oh, here it is. Waiting until mid to late June, which is okay. So that's where I had it at. They don't have an official date because it's always estimated, and you always want to hope that you get past it. So that's why they usually take. I think typically it's around June 10th or 12th, but they typically push it a few days past so they make damn sure that they have the Super 2 cutoff because it has to do with projections in the future. All right, my walk off is another great show, y'all. And if you're watching the Armchair Network, we're going to be starting up the neighborhood play with Joey and Christian here in just a few minutes. Great job, guys. We'll see you. Well, Sean, I'll see you Wednesday, and we'll definitely be back next Saturday for the payoff pitch.
If you can make a hit in a ball game, you can make a hit with me.